let's talk about third grade, how it went, especially in terms of curriculum. That's what most people are on here searching for, let's be honest. So, I just did my kindergarten video. There were a lot of wins there. There were a lot of wins for third grade as well. So let's just jump into this. So for math, we were with Saxon. And so we were in Saxon 5-4. Now this obviously is not the original cover for this. This is an older book. But so we started the year actually using a different edition. We were using I believe the second edition, which is what I used for my older son last year. And this is actually the third edition. And we switched probably come November, I want to say. So when my older son did this 5-4 level, he was basically redoing a grade. When he came home and we started homeschooling him, I found that he had some really big gaps and was really struggling in math. So we basically redid his fourth grade year using this Saxon 5-4. And we just did it at an accelerated pace. We used that second edition, which is what I could get my hands on at the time. And we had it paired with the test from the third edition, not really realizing they were different. And because he had already gone over the stuff, and this was mostly a review for him, it wasn't until the last couple tests that we noticed that the tests were not necessarily lined up with what he was learning. Because if I hadn't totally taught it yet, but it was on a test, he oftentimes recognized it and was able to work through it and figure some of it out. Well, this one, very quickly with my current third grader, since this was all new stuff for him, we began to notice that the tests do not line up, hardly at all. I mean, obviously some of them do, but starting with about test 4 or 5, we started noticing that the different editions just teach things in different orders, and there was a lot on it that he would come to me and be like, Mom, I don't know what a radius is. What's a radius? And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, we haven't done circles yet, because they do it earlier in the third edition than they did it in the second edition. So my cousin was currently using this 5-4 with her son at the time, and he finished up early in the year, and so I've just borrowed this from her, and this has gone well. I was really nervous, so I shared last year when I did our curriculum picks and said this is what we were using. I said I was really nervous. There's a big change because it goes from Math 3 to this Math 5-4. There's not an in-between, and it changes from, in Math 3 they're given a one-page worksheet every day that amounts to being probably around 15 to 20 questions, but it's spaced out. They're given space to do it. This one is what you're used to at a public school, where it gives you your questions for the day in here, and you write them onto another sheet of paper and answer them on there, which, you know, I didn't really realize was something you kind of had to learn, but I learned last year with my oldest son that that's actually kind of a big jump for kids, instead of just giving them something that they can work it out on. So we immediately knew going in we needed to move slowly with him, and we did, and he is doing well. Sometimes I still do need to chunk up the lessons. He is a little advanced in math, which means his maturity level is not fully there. So I sometimes still need to chunk it up instead of just straight up telling him, okay, you have evens today, because we don't do all of the problems. I often have to give him like the first 5 questions and tell him, okay, go do these 5. And then he goes and does that 5, and then he gets a couple minutes while I look him over, and then I give him the next 5. Like, he needs to break it up sometimes. But for the most part, he seems to be doing really well, is staying on top of it, is understanding it. So this Saxon is still going great for us. Language arts, I don't have anything to show you or hold up. He's really progressed in his reading this year. He read a ton. I will talk about his reading in a different video. For language arts, though, we used The Good and the Beautiful. He was on level 3. And our level 3, we do it, it's all on the computer. I don't have a book. So I print off for him the independent pages that he does, all his independent work. So I'll print that off and he can do that on his own. But all the lessons and the readers and the poetry that comes with it, we do that all online because it's free. So levels 2 and 3 we completely do online. And most of level 1 we will do online. So I don't have anything to hold up for you, but it's gone well. He is not a writer. He gets overwhelmed with writing. And there definitely is a step up from level 2 last year to level 3 this year in the amount of writing that he did. But it progresses him gradually, and while I do still have to kind of talk it out with him and help him figure out how he's going to start things, once he gets going, he can craft a pretty decent piece of writing now. And so I'm happy with the progress I've seen. I know the jump from 3 to 4 is going to be pretty overwhelming for him next year, but I'm going to talk later about how I'm going to handle that. Okay, let's see, next for him. This one was kind of a win and a miss at the same time. So I have here, So I have here a journal. I wanted him to start journaling every day. And we started off strong. This is very simple. It gives them a space every day to write one thing that they are grateful for, and then at the end of the week, or the beginning, however you want to use it, every week it gives them a discussion question. So like this one says, what was the best part of your week? Describe it below. This one says, what is one thing in nature that inspires you? Draw a picture of it. As you can see, we stopped doing eventually the one thing every day. It was just a little overwhelming, I think. It felt very, I don't know what the word is. It just didn't feel very sincere when I was every day, like, handing them their journal and telling them, write something, and they were like, I don't know, and so they were just like writing the first thing they looked around the room and saw. It wasn't really doing much for them as to what I wanted it to do. So instead, we have kept with trying for the most part to do the questions each week. So we will make it about halfway through this journal by the end of the school year. And I doubt, as much as I would love for us to keep it up in the summer, I doubt we will continue it in the summer. So we will just keep doing that next year. So it was a win because it did get them to do some, but it was a miss because we just didn't stay with it. Great. Okay, the next thing that kind of again was like a hit and miss. We tried once again to do, this is just a worksheet to remind me, health and PE from Easy Peasy. And just like last year, we weren't consistent with it. We were kind of consistent during the first half of the year. We did some things, not a ton, but we did do some. Like this is an example of, you know, why you need enough sleep and what causes you not to be able to sleep well. And we did some of it. The second half of the year, my son has been playing soccer starting in late February. So, you know, that counts towards the PE. But this year-long course of PE and health from Easy Peasy is probably going to take us 3 years to get through because I'm just not very consistent with it. But I'm trying. I did better this year than last year, I think. Okay, and this is a picture he drew. Okay, the other thing that we were better at this year than last year was art. Now, we did not I started out trying to do the art from Easy Peasy, and that went nowhere. So we may try that again next year. We'll see. What we did do though was with different science units, we would pull out books that were like how to draw different animals. So we drew a lot of ocean creatures when we did marine biology. We have been drawing some birds while we've been learning about birds. And then on Fridays, we've been in the afternoons after lunch, we've done quite a few drawings from Kids Art Hub. And so all of that kind of combined together, I feel like we've done a better job. This, let me explain. This was our first attempt at a bird this year. Notice there's not a bird on here. We were trying to draw an oriole, I think. And he messed up. And so he was like, it looks like a robot. And so he turned it into some sort of robot, I don't know, in the ocean attacking a cruise ship. And this is one of my examples. I actually love this picture because this is an example of how much he's grown this year. Last year, he is a perfectionist. Anytime his pictures would not turn out the way he wanted them to, he would ball them up and throw them and just get upset and sometimes cry. And he started that at the beginning of this year, but now he's kind of gotten to where he can laugh at himself a little and look at his picture and accept the fact that this just didn't turn out. And now he easily either just starts over, and he doesn't have a problem starting over. He doesn't see it as wasted time anymore. Or he turns it into something else and has fun with it. So for that reason, I think art was a win this year. Okay, another win this year. From the dollar store, I found this test prep workbook. My third grader has his first standardized test coming up in a few weeks, and he'll be fine. I know he knows the stuff for the most part, but this just gave him a little practice. He had never, bubbled things in before, so we had to discuss, when you get it wrong, you don't cross it out, you have to erase it. So we had to talk about how to do that. We had to talk about, when he first started, he was circling the answers. We had to talk about how to bubble in a worksheet. And so that was all good. And then this just went through, it says, the things that are expected for a third grader to know, and gives me an idea. And I have written down in the beginning that these are the pages that I need to go back with him and review before we do the actual standardized test. So we'll be finishing his math curriculum here in a couple weeks, and we will then start to go over this for a couple of weeks before he takes the test and just take the time to review. So that was good because it really let me know the types of things that maybe his curriculum hasn't taught super in depth yet versus what the public schools might have already taught that he might need to know. Okay, on Fridays for Hunter, I wanted him to do a little extra something. So I got him these Beast Academy puzzles. These are similar to like Sudoku and stuff like that. And he kind of complains about having to do them, but he actually enjoys them. And periodically he would be like, oh, that was a fun one. And there's lots of different types in here. So you can see there's that type. They're all numbers because Beast Academy is a math curriculum. And I would just tell him to come in and do 2 or 3 on Fridays just to work on them for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time. So he'll continue this next year. He's nowhere near being done with it. And it says, ages 8 to infinity because they get harder as they go. So he'll continue this to just work his brain, work his little math brain because he's my math brain child, and give him some more, number sense. Okay, another thing, this is very new to us. We've only been doing this for about a month. I got my hands on, I've been really interested in the actual Beast Academy curriculum. I didn't want to do it as a main curriculum, but I was interested in it as a supplement for him because I want him to really work that math brain of his. But I couldn't really justify buying the whole thing just for a supplement that I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And then I found the entire level 2, which is where they're supposed to start kind of no matter like what grade they're in, at a consignment sale for $30 for the entire, all 8 books. Never been used, of the whole level 2. And so I grabbed it and said, we're just gonna give this a shot. So we've finished the first chapter, and he enjoys it. He doesn't complain at all. I never hear anything from him about, oh, do I have to do extra math? Because I guess he enjoys it. He enjoys even doing the problems because they're a little out there, a little weird, make him think a little differently. And so I don't think he feels like he's doing math per se. So if you don't know anything about Beast Academy, it is written as a comic book, which he's really enjoyed. He even, when he was in the middle of doing problems in the middle, he was like, when do I get to go back to like reading the comic book? And I was like, well, you can read it whenever you want. You'll just need to go back and review certain chapters when you're on it. But so far he's enjoyed it. So we will probably continue some of this over the summer. This will kind of be summer work. And through next year, finish level 2, and then we will reevaluate if I feel like it's helping or if he's enjoying it. But another really random thing that I just happened to find, I think I found this at a library sale, and I've been doing it with my 3rd grader and my kindergartner combined together, is I found this Read and Understand Tall Tales from Evan Moore. And I didn't have them doing this, though I've considered maybe having my 3rd grader work through this on his own next year after we've like already gone through it. But I just realized, when are my kids ever going to hear tall tales? So we've kind of been doing a unit where we've just been talking about different tall tales, and we get together every Monday pretty much. We've made it almost halfway through the book where we read a tall tale and then it'll ask us questions. So we'll go over the comprehension questions. We don't really go over the vocabulary, which is part of what I might have him work on his own. We've done some of the, like this will go into sequencing, so I'll do that a lot with my kindergartner. We'll talk about putting these different things in order, have them reiterate the story back to me. They have really enjoyed the tall tales, because who doesn't? They're super fun. I remember learning about them and reading them in school and just having so much fun with those stories. So I really, once I saw that, it was kind of like a little reminder, like, oh yeah, I should definitely go over those stories with my boys. Maybe see if I can like find some of them on YouTube this summer so that I can like re-show them and say, hey, remember when we like read this story? Because they really enjoyed them, and I always really enjoyed them. I love tall tales, myths, all these like fun, fantastical stories that we know are not true, but are just really fun. Okay, another thing that it was a win, but not without some complaining, and that's handwriting. My 3rd grader does not love doing handwriting. He doesn't love writing. Okay, I already said that, and that is mostly the act of writing. I think if he was allowed to type everything, there'd be less fighting, but he still needs to work on his handwriting. So he did The Good and the Beautiful's handwriting level 3, and he liked it as much as I think he's ever going to actually like a handwriting curriculum. Like, I don't think there's ever going to be anything where he's like, I love this, I wish I could do more handwriting. But this is where we introduce cursive. He was introduced a little last year to cursive, but not enough for me to feel comfortable moving him on from this level. So he was introduced to cursive, but most of his writing of sentences, so he did lots of letters, but his writing of sentences was always done in print. But as you can see, he enjoyed all of the little projects that come on the bottom. He really got into those. Sometimes to the point of distraction, so he would only get like a page done when I was asking them to do 2 to 3 pages. They worked on this while I usually read something to them, and so he is not finished. He is maybe about 2/3 of the way through. We have about 6 weeks left in school, so I'm hopeful we can get a decent amount of this done. And then I will probably just ask him to finish it up over the summer so we can move on. So it was a win because I do see it helping. I do see it working. But he's never going to like love a handwriting curriculum. So I think as much as he will love one, I think this is as close as we're going to get. So I put it in the win column. So far everything has been really a win except for trying to journal and our attempts at PE. I think the program is great. The program's fine. What we're doing, it's not that. It's just my inability to be consistent with it. So we'll get there. There was one thing for his curriculum that was not a win this year, and that is the Good and the Beautiful's typing. He, like I said, typing is something that's going to be important for him in the future because I think it will help his writing a lot. So I got this to try, and it just did not click with either of my boys, or me even. I just found it to be just a little dry and boring. You know, I mean, the pages are pretty and all, I guess. I mean, as much as they can be, they're just covered in words. But the boys just were not connecting with it. It seemed very repetitive, which typing is repetitive. They don't have a problem with repetitive, but it seemed repetitive to a point that they were just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Neither one of them liked it, and I didn't feel like they were really learning from it because it was too easy unless I sat there like staring over their shoulder for them to still like chicken peck at it. There was nothing to say they needed to really be trying to get smoother and faster, and while it taught them the right fingers to use, it didn't, there was nothing that really like made them. So we made it, how far did we make it? We did not make it that far. We made it to about lesson 30 out of, how many are there? Lesson 30 out of 80. Yeah. And that's with trying to do it all year. It was just not clicking. So for the last month, about a month, we've been using typing.com, and that's worked much better. My third grader still kind of, like, he still fights me a little bit about not wanting to get on and do it, mostly because he gets mad because his brother, he's that perfectionist, and he's mad that his brother is getting better scores and going faster than him. And I remind him that his brother is in 6th grade and has been typing longer and learned typing in the public school a little bit before coming home and has a leg up on him. I see it improving. I do see, just watching the program, it's definitely moving them forward better and more consistently than something on here did. So for some people, I can see this working great. If your kids are really disciplined with it and are like really wanting to learn, this works. It goes through all the same steps. It's starting with all the same letters. Nothing's different between what it was doing in typing.com. It's just that my kids just found this to be boring, and so they didn't want to do it, and they didn't care if they did a good job or not. Whereas with typing.com, it's a little bit more exciting, a little bit more fun. They get feedback, which is very integral for them. And so yeah, that's really the only thing I would put in the definitely not a win category. As for like just 4th grade in general, this was a little bit of a rough year. He had 4th grade, not 4th grade, 3rd grade. We're going into 4th grade. 3rd grade was a little bit of a rough year. He just he's gone through most of this year just not really wanting to like get down to business and work. He sees his younger brother who's in kindergarten getting done with school faster, which makes sense, and going off to play, and he wants to go play. And you know, I've tried to instill in him the idea that if he just gets his work done, if he gets it finished and out of the way, then he can go play and he's free. And his work, on the days when he does just sit down and do his work, he's usually done for the day, except for a group subject that we do around 2:30 in the afternoon because we do it when his sister naps. he's done by 11:30, and then he's free from like 11:30 to 2:30. He's free like through the lunch hour and before it and after it, and he can go play. And that's usually with maybe even a little break in the middle. Like, he doesn't have that much. But the act of getting him to sit down and just do it has just been a really big struggle this year. But we're working on it. Last year it was his older brother had this problem, but his older brother's figured it out. I know it will come. It's a maturity thing. Some of it I might have to do with the fact that he's a little advanced in doing work that maybe he isn't fully emotionally mature for yet. I guess you could say emotionally. Mostly I just mean like, yeah, he's just not mature enough while his brain is moving on ahead. And you know, funny story, he had the same problem when he was like a baby. He started walking at 9 months, and I've always joked that like his body was ready to walk, but his like, you know, perception, like his, you know, eye depth perception wasn't totally caught up to where his body was. He like ran into things all the time. He fell. He was constantly bruised. And I think that's just how he's going to live his life, is different parts of him are going to be ready to zoom ahead and other parts of him are going to lag behind, and he's just going to have to find a way to either hold out till that lagging part catches up, or find a happy middle ground. So that's kind of just where he always has lived his life, and I think he'll get there. It just takes a lot of patience. We've definitely had our knockdown, drag out fights between him and myself. Some moments that I'm definitely not proud of, but overall the year has gone well. We've settled in. It's been a good schedule. We just are working through kinks and growing up and all that comes with that. So, if you're looking for third grade curriculum, third, not fourth, though obviously it just depends on your kid's ability. These are the things we've done. Saxon, the Good and the Beautiful have been, you know, the biggest parts, and Beast Academy looks like it's going to be good, but I will give you more on that later. So, y'all have a great day.